In changing what we do and how we do it, we impact others and related operations. The more complex the transformation, the more people involved, and the longer time required, we often see more interactions to address and with increased risk. Whether an individual changes their daily regime or a government seeking to transform the economy of a country, there are impacts to others to be managed, whether it is realized or just assumed. Again, it is in the implementation with pragmatics and practicalities of response to situation where we experience and respond differently. The need to take us on the journey and those impacted applies. So let us bring a perspective to help with managing interdependencies and areas impacted with a business example. Let's get into it. Whether it is an acquisition, a divestment, a change in system, through to revised business operations, or the adoption of artificial intelligence and knowledge worker automation, a range of business areas may be impacted with dependencies and interactions to manage. Not all the areas listed may be required, and there may be other areas to include and details within these areas, but the intent is to paint a picture of considerations. Starting with leadership, who set the objectives, manage the strategy to achieve the objectives, ensure the risk management from transformation risk, strategic risk, through market risk to the respective operational risks. Keep the business running while changes are made. Assure the required changes are made. Ensure that the business can be sustained with the changes implemented. Address the decision-making and response to circumstance. It is people who deliver the change, and areas to consider include roles and how they will change with people ready for them. The required organizational changes like people transferring. Variations required to performance and its management as a result of the changes. Revisions to compensations from leave through to back pay and any changes in conditions. The employment and whether we want to change our employment. All of this applies across the business areas. Stakeholders need to be identified, the needs and motivations appreciated, and taken on the required journeys related. This includes customers, agencies impacted, especially with government, regulators and compliance, vendors and the services supplied, channel partners, whether they are venture partners or agents selling products and services which may be impacted or require new agreements. Membership groups representing staff through to not-for-profits supported by a business. The internal business areas which are required to respond to the changes. A key stakeholder is the vendors and or channel partners which may need to make changes in their operations as required. Legal changes may also be impacted across a business, including open cases, contracts, service arrangements, service agreements, arrangements for intellectual property, revisions to partnerships, supplier changes and any necessary ownership changes. From technology to business operations, impacts may need to be managed. Whether it is employee safety or licenses, regulatory and compliance changes may be required, covering revisions to control, licenses, reporting requirements, amendments to ownerships, or alterations related with transfers. The theme is that these areas across the respective business operations are considered and applied as necessary. Let's continue with areas which may be impacted. Corporate affairs may need to be involved with both internal and/or external communications across the channels. Should things go smoothly, the role may be minimal. Conversely, where issues arise, especially with media coverage and political impacts, a more extensive engagement may occur. Finance impacts can vary with the type and extent of change. Common areas for interdependency management include accounts payable and receivable with the required debtors, creditors, and provisions, asset management with transfer, depreciations, valuations, payroll including changes, transfer, remediations, treasury, its management, whether it is bank account details to foreign currency through to hedging, cash flow management, liquidity management, the overall profit and loss, as well as the respective areas, reporting with the many changes to financial reporting that may be required. Business services and operations are subject to change with interdependencies to manage, including products and services, operations and service models, processes and the necessary changes integrated end-to-end, policies and procedures, performance management, brand impacts, consolidation and transition of products and services as required from the changes. Revisions to shared services may also be needed, including access, security, safety, facilities-related change, whether it is signage, room changes, booking, or printing and copiers. Relocations of staff required. The technology impacted by the changes can include services and operations, risk and regulatory, security, integration of systems, networks, compute, applications, end devices, user accounts. Related to the technology is the data, where areas to manage include quality of data, sources of data, migration of data and the related issues, agreements for use and access and sharing of data and related changes, security of the data, especially if used by vendors and channel partners, access and permissions to data related to roles and user accounts. Again, many areas may be impacted to differing extents with the required coordinated responses. Financial aspects, for example, apply across business areas, the shared services, the projects and programs, and any related technology, as well as operations and services. Assets have a financial aspect as well as support and servicing aspect to be managed. Risk is inherent across the respective areas. Audit may be required as well. Aspects like resourcing are also to be managed. Varying with the changes or transformation are other areas to manage and dependencies addressed. Whether it is the business processes, the technology integration, or the end-to-end operations, testing is required. As a business, we need to know that what is delivered is fit for purpose and can deliver what the business needs, as well as the business can use it and sustain operations. Readiness is required end-to-end across the necessary operations with ability to operate end-to-end. Key to this is the support network with the required capacities and capabilities, as well as the ability to access time away from operations through a front door process. The preparations for service commencement, whether staged or not, need to be in place, together with go-live management and the ongoing support arrangements. The required support network for people to approach for help and support is part of successful implementation. These preparations are then delivered and managed. The dependencies and interdependencies are to be worked across the respective areas end to end. Much of the transformation is managed and delivered by projects and or programs who may require the services and operations of a project management office for delivery. Irrespective of the size, nature, duration, complexity, and type of change or transformation, the interdependencies across the business need to be managed. It is also transparent that irrespective of views on methodologies, to use a one-size-fits-all approach is seldom appropriate. One methodology or one framework alone would struggle to deliver, and that varying approaches according to need across the respective areas is appropriate. What is also consistent with a differing transformation is the need for managing lead times, allowing for time away from business to support the changes, interdependency management and working end to end, sustaining the business through the transformation, managing the risk of the transformation is required. Please do not be perturbed by the picture painted. This is about managing the realities of business transformation. Thank you for your time. Please share with others. Feel free to subscribe and add your comments to your rewarding future.